Ad podcast. We have an exciting conversation for you guys today. The Kay Prince is in the house. Kay is the marketing executive and strategic growth leader, specializing in transformative marketing departments and helping startups market their, just all the different things that come with running growth with a startup and being an early stage company, and some of the things that you can do to fire up your funnel. With over a decade of experience, her work spans B2B growth, strategy, performance marketing, martech, adtech, SaaS, gaming, and financial services. Known for championing full funnel revenue accountability, she focuses heavily on closing the disconnect between marketing, sales, product, and customer success teams to drive measurable ROI. And she was recently selected as an Advertising Club of New York Fellow and frequently writes and speaks on growth strategy and B2B pipeline development. Kay, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. And I mean, I have to say, what an intro. I don't think I could ever say that myself. So I'm excited.
Hey, that's what I'm here for, to make you look good. All right. So I know I gave a little bit of a background there, but maybe you can contextualize it a little bit. So where'd you grow up? What'd you study? And how'd you get into startup marketing?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I like to say I was born into this. My mother, Mac McKelvey, who's the CEO of Salient MG as well, she's been in marketing her whole life. And so when I was born, I was just kind of born right into it and fell in love with it. So I'm from Columbia, Maryland. I now live in New York City. But yeah, I started in high school taking marketing classes to winning business competitions, then going to college to study marketing, and then had internships throughout college. And then here I am. I think the internship part is very, very important, especially to get your hands on in something like marketing. So you're not kind of coming out of college net new, not knowing real life of what kind of it looks like. So so been doing growth marketing for 10 plus years, and really helping companies turn marketing teams into revenue drivers, not cost centers. Some executives see that way. So I really try to make sure that that's how they see marketing. And yeah, I mean, you killed the introduction. I don't know what else to say.
I love it. Well, let's talk a little bit about the family business dynamic, because I think it might be the first time that I've ever heard of an agency leader and somebody coming in and kind of stepping into the family business. So did you think, growing up that you would do that, or did you have, aspirations to do something totally different, and then it just kind of like eventually wore on you? Like, tell me a little bit about your journey in, going to work for your parents' company.
Of course. And look, I have to say, she didn't force me into anything. There wasn't anything from her side of, this or else.
Sure.
But, I remember back in the day when she took me to bring your kids to work day at XM. She was at XM before the merger was serious. And I got to sit in meetings and hear about marketing when I was 12 years old. And I didn't really understand what it meant at the time, but I was like, this is what you see all day, every day. I mean, marketing is something that's just there, right? There's thousands of people behind the scenes, obviously, but it's always just kind of there. So I was like, you know what? There's a marketing career academy at my high school. So why don't I at least join that? It's free. And after my first marketing class, business class there, I was sold.
Wow.
And I just fell in love with really the combination of data, analytics, optimization, and revenue and customer experience. Like I loved that it's all kind of under one big bubble. So throughout that, mom was very, very proud, and I was interning for her during that time. That time it was a lot of building furniture and getting lunch and, taking the dog outside, that type of intern stuff. But then it quickly grew to doing client research, helping with client pitches, doing data research for future clients and that type of stuff. And so, as I'm sure many listeners out there that, the first thing is maybe not going into the family business and knowing that it's, what it is. And it's, it's been around since 2013. So, I worked with her kind of internship wise, worked with her a little bit throughout college. But then after college, I really was actually able to come back and join the company to just work and to be surrounded by 10 plus business senior marketing executives as a 21-year-old is something that you can't ever replicate. Like, that is true. You dive into the deep end and and you start to go. And so, that was great. And then I hit kind of, all right, what's my next move? So I've done the smaller kind of side of it. So I decided to go enterprise and go in-house. And it was great. I did 3 different companies in-house and all in growth marketing. And it, something that I look back on still to this day is, even though we were enterprise and had the enterprise budget, we still were operating as a startup marketing team. So, that's one of the big things here and one of the strong points that I say all the time is that even if you're making $500 million a year, you're probably still still working like a startup marketing team. So, startup marketing doesn't always have to be within the $1 to $25 million range. It's a mentality. It's a discipline overall. So back to that. So I did some great execution and work throughout my other companies. And then, of course, the tech advertising world hit, was laid off, and was, looking for my next role. And Mac came to me and said, look, it's not the agency side that we want you to come work on. It's actually this whole new division, and really bring this to market and bring the life to this. And I was like, I'll do it for a couple months. It sounds great. And then my first month in, I fell in love, and now she can't get rid of me now. So I don't know how she feels about it, but yeah, she can't get rid of me now. So it's awesome, and she's been such a role model to me too, because she started out in the scraps and she started dirty with her hands and made all of these great connections that I was able to meet. And then that opened so many doors. And I was the one that stepped through them, but being able to open doors like that in this advertising and tech world is unlike anything else. You can't really do that and make those connections if you aren't already kind of connected in some way.
Let's go. Well, I'm excited to talk to you because you guys play, in that, that in the arena in which I operate, which is the adtech, martech, publishing, data companies, and all of the creator economy, the entire ecosystem that kind of feeds in and powers the advertising industry from a tech perspective. So I'm curious to, peel back the onion with you. So when you start working with a client in that $1 to $25 million range, what do you think are the first, few tactics or channels or strategies that you should start executing on? What's the biggest bang for your buck when you're getting started as a B2B ad tech, martech company? Is it different for each one, or do you think there are some tried and true kind of first steps to get out there and have the most amount of impact with, like you said, startup budgets and ROI focus thinking?
Yeah. The plain boring answer is it obviously depends, but really the number one thing is to understand where you are to date. Like if you're a founder, how do you see marketing? How do you see product? How do you see these types of things? And we're able to talk to the founders and the team to understand, okay, they want to go to market quicker than, let's say, client B. So client A, we're going to recommend more of a, go to market package and, that type of stuff. But, I don't want to be that boring, this is what we do kind of thing. But what I really want to hit home is that it doesn't matter if you're coming to the startup marketer or Salient as a startup, middle-sized enterprise. We always start the same of where are you to date? Are you in understanding the data behind that? And be honest, right? Like sometimes I know we don't want to really look at the numbers in depth, but this is where it's important. Look at your numbers, look at where your goals are and what is your board expecting? What is your founder expecting? And we've started to realize there's a lot of, I'll say, disconnect really with the founder and marketing relationship, right? Because founders don't know really when to bring marketing in. Marketing doesn't really know how to talk to the founders besides saying, give me more money. So it's really just educating to both of those groups on, you have to talk the same language. At the beginning of the day, if you're not doing that, then you're not going to succeed in a marketing way or even in a growth way specifically. So it's really, again, about where are you to date and what is the one next step that the founder wants to see. And that helps us and helps, this is where the community part of our company comes in, is okay, great. This is what your next step is. Then we're coming here and saying, look, we will give you this tool and this data and this operating system. We just launched a AI toolkit. So we send them an AI toolkit that helps them get started with AI. And, if you're a founder or startup, you get, there's different tracks there. But, I'm kind of talking in circles here, but it really, really comes down to where are you today and what are your goals?
Tell me a little bit about why have separate brands? Why have Salient MG and Startup Marketer as two separate brands? And what was it about that decision that made it, something? Because when you split your brand, you're now communicating and messaging for two different companies or at least two different brands. But what was the reasoning for having those two distinct units within the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So Salient is kind of our agency side, right? So Salient MG and that team focuses on exactly what you asked, is figuring out how to bring brands to market, where you are, what is your go-to-market strategy, all of that. And then we started to realize the team within Salient is startup marketers. We've done it for 12 plus years. So we have our expertise in that kind of field. We're helping them also with their hands-on, but what do we do with this expertise that we have? So we took a step back and realized that we almost own the startup marketing B2B ad tech spot, right? Here's our proof points. We do the work and we win clients, right? And now it's okay, we have these experts. Now it's, what's the next big thing in marketing that's going on? And it's community. And it is, so, community in the way of, you just need to talk to other people. Startup marketers and a lot of founders, it's one person. So you're going absolutely stir crazy. You're talking yourself out of ideas. You're talking yourself into ideas. It's a whole mess, right? You don't know what to do. So we've realized that people are coming to us asking these questions, but why don't we just make it a little bigger than that? So we realized that, all right, we'll keep Salient kind of the agency, that's definitely Mac's, other daughter, as I would say. And then the startup marketer, we've really kind of had this basic idea of, we want a community for startup marketers. What does that look like? And that has made us grown into so much more than just a community where you can go talk to other founders that are doing the same thing you are. Startup marketers can go talk to executives too of, I'm having this issue with this type of reporting. How should my boss be looking at this? Or that type of advice. There's no dedicated trainings or frameworks or playbooks for startup marketing specifically. So we saw the gap in the white space and we jumped in there. So now we like to say, we're the really first big ecosystem specifically around startup marketing, and it's its own discipline. It's not enterprised repackaging. We have free templates, free content, free access to the community. We are launching a bunch of new products actually in September, which we're super excited about. But the other great thing is we do trainings training to startup marketers. So you guys aren't just going to go to Coursera and do an enterprise playbook. No, you can come to us and we're going to really focus and hone in on that startup marketing space. And we've seen just it explode of growth of new members, but also people in our ecosystem overall, and people wanting to learn more. So that's kind of really where that split went. And look, a lot of B2B companies advertise the same. It's like, we need this brand color and this square of this size of this tone, like all of those very, very in the box stuff. So that's what Salient sticks to. But there's the startup marketer. We've brought this thing to life. We have so much fun with it. Our mascot's an octopus because startup marketers are wearing 18 different hats. And so we bring her to life. Like I don't want other people feeling like we're just advertising to them. We're really just talking to them. And so that's where the fun and different kind of brands also play in.
I love it. I love the idea of building a community, to unlock value between all these startups, because I think, like you said, the biggest challenge, especially for startups, especially for early stage companies, whether they've raised money or not, like you said, the early days can be lonely. You're either working from home or maybe you're in a WeWork, not talking to anybody.
Oh yeah.
Or in a co-working space, co-working spaces can be a lot of fun from the perspective of like, getting up, putting on your clothes, going to a professional setting and having like the energy, but some do a better job than others of building real community. But a lot of times it can be just as isolating going to a co-work as it can be, as working from home. So I love the idea of giving startup marketers a place to build community, share learnings, ask each other questions.
And that's the big thing too that you hit on, right? Mm-hmm. Is sharing the learnings. I mean, I think we just did some research where it's about 15,000 different marketing tools. If you're coming in to become a startup, you have no idea where to start with that. And tools just in general are terrifying to think about and expensive to think about. So it's also like, here's our real world experience of what we recommend you doing at each stage. Your early stage, you don't need to be worrying about a prospecting tool. Your early stage, you need to be worried about brand messaging and your creatives and that type of stuff. So we're not only also just bucketing all startups into one bucket, we're also separating these startups into different stages, because we want to be there from your early stage to then when you graduate and you're like, all right, thank you, startup marketers. I got this now. Like, I feel good. And so we're not only there from a community standpoint, but from an educational and awareness standpoint as well.
Tactically, how do you link the community to get together? How do they, how do they talk to each other? Is it through like a Slack group, or do you have something proprietary? But how do you build that community?
Yeah, so we're on a community platform right now, and so it's great because it takes it up a level from Slack, and it takes it a level less than like a social media platform. So when you first kind of log into our community, you're welcomed into our hub, right? Which is where everybody is. And we're talking to people all day, every day of, this meme, or this ad was so funny, or I can't believe it's Monday, what's going on? And then we have another kind of group chat, right? So think of them as Slack channels. So we have that kind of fun, hey, we know you're working 87 hours a week. Just come here and take a deep breath. We don't need you to stress anymore. And then we have a whole other channel where we're talking about the industry. What's going on? What are new reports that are people saying? What is exciting the startup marketing community now? What are some results that our community members have seen? We want to hear their success stories. We want to be just as a partner with them as they are with us. It's a two-way streak here. And it's, if our community members aren't getting what they want, then we don't have a company. And that's not, we want to help them. And the other great thing too, is that it's not only within this platform, it's free to sign up, free to become a member. In the platform, you will also find these trainings, these templates, the AI toolkit that I just mentioned that we just launched. You can purchase stuff in there. So it's not only just the community messaging standpoint from there, but it also houses everything else for us. And I know that a lot of members in our community, they DM each other. You can talk back and forth privately. You can follow one another. You get badges for being active and communicating with other people. And, it just is bringing another life to B2B and to startups in general of you guys aren't alone. And this isn't just a tactic. This is a discipline, and we're here for you. And it's built, the whole thing again is it's built for startup marketers by us startup marketers.
I love it. So you've got these community threads that then kind of branch off into more specific topics. And then you've got training modules, and you've got gamification to reward people for being active. Sounds super cool. A big component of, post-pandemic is like taking the URL to the IRL. A lot of people are out there spending time in the real world and trying to get together in person. Are you guys thinking about places that you can kind of show up in the real world to bring physical community to, this digital community that you guys have built? Be curious how you guys are blending the real world aspect into it.
Yeah. And speaking kind of on the events too, we do a live event every week virtually, where we bring in either a senior executive to talk about a topic. A company can come in and sponsor and come talk about their product. So we have a lot of different things like that. But with regarding I don't want to say real life, in real life, I'll say that. We've already started making our presence. So we were at Possible previously, more so there as let's just see where the startups kind of are going. And we want to be at the forefront, especially with Possible and all of these other big tent poles of, startups are where it's at, and startups are the next generation. And again, even if you're, an enterprise company, there is still startup marketing tactics that or disciplines that you are still implementing. So we really got to feel what that was like at Possible. And again, that was our first kind of taste of the tentpole activities. We took it up a notch and actually was at Cannes this year, which was one hot week. I will say that. And that was awesome because we were able to really start to introduce the startup marketer as not only, the community, but also an authoritative voice of the startup marketer community. I was there, I hosted a session, and we had some panels going on. And that really opened our eyes to what we could do in real life. And so now what we're doing is we're going to be bringing some fun things to Advertising Week.
Nice.
Daily ain't going to be there, but the startup marketing is going to have some presence there. And we're going to have some fun events, and we're going to have a panel or two as well, because exactly what you said is there's the level of in-person that people crave, especially these teams and these small companies that have 1 to 2 people in it. We don't want you sitting alone at your desk doing all this stuff. Come meet other people like you, share this stuff in real life, because you can only gain so much from an online community, and taking it in real life takes it up a notch, and it makes it feel tangible that like, oh, I am a part of something. Like this isn't just bigger than like a, maybe bot that's on the other side. This is like an actual group of people backing each other up. So we're really excited. And, one of the other kind of things that I do is I'm the founder of the BuzzFree Network. And that is a kind of network / community where we bring together companies to understand that they need to have non-alcoholic options at events.
Oh, nice.
4 years sober, and one of the biggest things in the industry, or hardest things, is these networking events, because they're at the bars, they got maybe a drink or two in them. So it's also kind of doing that. How do we bring that other aspect to life with the startup marketer of, all right, we know that this is what it's like, but we're going to challenge everything and make it a little different, and make it fun again. We're bringing fun back to B2B ad tech. That's for sure.
I love it. Well, I've got 12 years in September, so been on the same path as well, trying to figure out how do you how do you operate in this industry, when you give up booze. And what I find is I'm just up early at all those, I was at Possible, I was at Cannes doing the show from both of those locations. And, I was doing interviews as early as 8 a.m. I might've been to bed by midnight or something like that. But, just surviving those events, it's so much easier when you're not, getting after it the whole time, at least from my perspective. So,
I agree.
That's cool. I love it. Very cool. So we talked a little bit about your participation in Ad Club of New York as well, which is a pretty storied chapter of the Ad Club. Be curious, is there anything about the advertising club, kind of that old school advertising community that you like and that you are saying, okay, this is something that, is tried and true and that we might want to, inject into our community?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was an honor to be selected as a woman fellow. They pick about 10 every year. And it came to me in a very weird time in my life where I wasn't working. I was looking for a job. I was extremely discouraged by the job market, as I'm sure a lot of people are and a lot of people get. And so I felt really alone, not only in the professional sense, but also kind of the personal sense. And I was like, I don't know how to merge these two things. So I was invited, and it was absolutely incredible experience. And it absolutely showed me what a real community is. It's not just professional, it is also personal, where these other women and these other young professionals, and even the older, more senior executives that are there, they kind of just took us under the wing, and they really made us feel not like a intern. They valued our thoughts and our opinions, and we're in the workforce, hands dirty. Like we know what's kind of going on in the industry, in the world. And it was awesome to be seen in that light, and not just somebody that's young or new or anything like that. It was kind of an even playing field. And the way that the Ad Club runs in-person events in general is something to aspire to, no matter what. From their awards to their summer socials to everything, it just is a proof point that there will always be a need for community. If you get laid off, you still need a community. If you sell your company, you still need a community. And you really want to celebrate with the community too, with that, in that case. But it really showed me, okay, here's community kind of emerging as a marketing growth tactic as well, from a revenue standpoint, and also from what the consumers need and want. And so it was funny. I did that a couple years ago. And then when I got into this job, I was like, oh, wait, a lot of things are overlapping. Like, let me do some deeper thinking of how and why did I feel that way there, and how can we bring it to this community as well?
Super cool.
Yeah.
All right. I want to get into some of your core philosophy as a B2B marketer. So you famously said, I don't speak impressions, I speak revenue. Yep. Where do you think traditional B2B marketing can go wrong? Why are so many marketing teams still caught up in reporting vanity metrics like clicks and impressions, when executives at these companies don't care about those things? They care about pipeline, and they care about deals. Be curious, how do you navigate that kind of an ecosystem?
Yeah. And that's really what I did kind of in those 3 in-house jobs, was brought in to kind of help with that. One of my biggest beliefs is that, especially as a marketer, I want to know the impressions. I want to know the clicks, but my boss doesn't need to know that. Their boss doesn't need to know that. Their board definitely doesn't need to know that, because they don't care about that. Right. And so there's that, right, of like, yes, you need it because it informs your marketing strategy. That helps at the end of the day, but definitely not metrics that you should be reporting to any of your bosses. I mean, even if it's a paid media campaign and you got 12 million impressions, great. What came from that? That's what they want to know. So it's also, how do you pull the string from that impression to a closed deal? And mapping out that journey is really important for someone like a founder or board to see if, okay, we ran this campaign, which generated these impressions, great. These clicks, great. But then it turns into, they became a lead. Okay, sales reached out, they became qualified. Awesome. Then they turned into either closed won or closed lost, but we can back all of that up into that one campaign. That's what they want to see. They don't want to see this campaign got this, and this. They want to see how we're marketing, bringing in the leads and then converting them and then going to sales, those types of things. And that's why it is so, so important for marketing teams to be hand in hand with sales, customer success, product, because if marketing is only measuring these vanity metrics too, they're losing sight of the bigger picture of what is the person's journey? How does the consumer interact with us? They don't see that whole line. They only see, bits and pieces of it. So I definitely come in off the bat and look, it's definitely a little bit of a structure, not change, but enhancement, as I would say, right? Let's become friends with sales. It's always sales versus marketing. It needs to be sales and marketing. We know this. And so it's putting some egos down. It's putting some old ways down and realizing that, look, if sales is succeeding, marketing succeeding, customer success is succeeding, it's all one big thing. So I don't speak in impressions, and you'll never hear me talk about, besides, explaining this, you'll never hear me talk about, oh, this campaign got this and, it went viral. Cool. That's awesome. And that's cool for a lot of B2C companies where, you're Kit Kat and you went viral for something awesome. That's something that they probably want to report to. But if we created a campaign and it went viral, then again, they don't care. And especially when we're talking about marketing budgets and fighting for your budget, fighting for more budget, which marketers are always trying to do. If you can't speak your boss's language, not only just generally, but also in revenue numbers, then you're never going to get a bigger budget. You're never going to, get what you want because you're not showcasing what's going on. So I think a lot of it stems too from, I think a lot of senior executives have been in this industry for a while, and that's what used to be important. So it's also bringing in these younger talents, these younger growth marketers like myself and say, look, what you've done is absolutely impressive and amazing, but this is how the new marketing world is kind of working as well. So it's also kind of being open-minded, which is hard for a lot of companies.
For sure.
No.
For founders or CMOs that want to transition their marketing team from a cost center to a revenue generating engine,
Yep.
What would you say step one of that operational overhaul would look like?
Is the understanding where you are to date with the other teams in the company. Are you talking
going back to those silos that you were just talking about?
Exactly. Because again, if you're in your own silo, you're reporting vanity metrics, and then you're becoming a cost center. And that's when marketing gets hit and marketing gets blamed, and that whole story that I know a lot of us hear. But it's definitely those silos. And then it's also, which is extremely hard, especially nowadays, is understanding the data. You have 18 million channels. Great. How do you take specific metrics from those different channels to piece a full picture together of impression to website visit to form fill to meeting to proposal sent to closed one? How do you pull that together? And that's marketing's job to really, really showcase and enhance.
Working with high growth tech companies and startups at both Salient and the Startup Marketer, what's the most common growth marketing mistake that you see early stage teams make when they're trying to scale too fast?
Is these vanity metrics. They're focused on, let's get in front of people. Let's get in front of, I don't care how many people, and I don't care how, we need it quick. It's not about the quality, especially with startups and these teams that have lower budget. It is about quality, not quantity. And that also is a little bit of a mind shift change for some older executives, because they would be like, we brought 800 leads in, done. And they're fantastic. But now we brought in 20 leads really out of those 800. So it's kind of understanding that as well.
Let's also talk about the idea of brand versus performance marketing. This is pretty common in the consumer world, talking about like, hey, how much do you need to focus on lower funnel versus upper funnel? But
Yeah.
I feel like in B2B and ad tech, you can kind of see similar issues. You talk about places like Possible or Can, and not just when like, especially at these giant events, there's a lot of people vetting for client attention, whether it's media agencies or the brand marketers. And a lot of these companies, they're hard to understand what their names are. Their websites don't make any sense. Everything is like AI gobbledygook now, and
Yep.
like every website looks the
Oh, you
same.
know it.
And I have to look at them all because I'm always vetting these inbound pitches from PR firms. Like, do I want to talk to these guys right away, or do I want to talk to them in 3 months?
Yeah.
Be curious, how do you approach that brand building versus performance marketing seesaw as it sits specifically in the world of B2B marketing within, adtech and martech and those ecosystems that we operate in?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be very honest, there is no difference here. In B2B, we don't have the time to measure brand versus performance. We don't have the pleasure. I mean, again, some of these older, more enterprise companies, they might be different, but really we're talking about mid-market and startup marketers here there are the same. And especially your founder, they don't care about what's brand versus what's performance. They see it one line because here, look, in the end of it, if you're not performing well, your brand isn't doing well. If your brand's doing well, then you're performing pretty well. So it's not a and or, it's and. And so I think for B2B, it's, there's a lot of push for these vanity metrics that fall into either one or the other of brand or performance. But again, that at the end of the day is not what your CEO wants to hear. It's not what your CFO wants to hear. That's for sure. It's not what your board wants to hear. So I think as marketers, we can talk about it. I think it's, one thing that maybe our team focuses on and reports on, and that helps them optimize our strategies and go to markets and all of that stuff. But that's not something that should be in the back of the CMO's head of, okay, this campaign did 22% more than last week's campaign, and it only, like that's it. That's not what should be in the back of our head. It should be, this is how much we've spent, this is the many of leads, and this is where we are. And that way your CMO or whoever is prepared to go into any conversation and have those in handy instead of, well, here's some impressions that we did, which is always good, but it's definitely, they're the same. And we don't have the time or the energy or the money to sit here and try to make them different. We got to go to market, especially nowadays with AI. I mean, and I loved have to understand what websites mean, which is still a tough thing to do in the B2B market. But, So that's where, on there you go.
So, talking about the tech stack and signal loss, there's a lot of things happening with privacy regulation. With the rise of AI tools, people are clicking through to websites less. I still do it because I like to see how a company explains what they do and see if I can figure it out from their website. But I might not be the typical consumer these days that are spending more time inside of chatbots to try and figure those things out. Yeah. So, when B2B marketers used to be able to, pixel and tag people during the research phase, people would be clicking through to websites, reading blog posts, watching videos, kind of consuming own channel media. And then we had an opportunity to follow those folks around while they were still in the decision mode. Now they're coming to your website way later in the process, maybe ready to buy, but it gives you less time to kind of follow them around with marketing between interest and conversion. Be curious how you're thinking about updating the growth stack with this, without getting too bogged down with tool overload, but thinking about the signal loss problem and the compressed buyer window.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, the 15,000 tech stack number is absolutely insane. And especially when you're a founder or even just a marketer yourself and you're like, I need a tool and there's that many, you have nowhere to start. So like, I understand the pain and it is there for sure. I think, and as a growth marketer, I hate that I can't track the one person from point to point to point to point anymore, because that was the way to tell if stuff was working. And now you can't tell as quickly. But the biggest thing is that they need to be educated before they get to your website nowadays. So you need to be doing as good of a marketing job as you need to be doing to show up in these AI chats where people are asking, how are you showing up in social, right? We all know SEO and AEO and all those pull from these things. So your marketing has to happen a lot quicker and a lot more kind of just out there than specific marketing, right? So you have to think about some of the overall use cases and overall pain points that you solve, because nowadays we're not really able to say all of our founders in our audience gets this email, all of the startup marketers get this email. It's not, it's not workable and it's not achievable anymore. So it's okay, what is our overall message to everybody to get them interested? And then that's when they come in, and that's when we try to figure out what type of audience they are later down the line. I think there's some sort of stat out there where it's like 37% of B2B buyers already made a decision when they come to a website. Wow. And that's the reality we live today is you cannot count on your website anymore. And if you do, you need to make it pretty and simple and just a couple words and make it really easy to understand, but you can't count on that anymore. So it's, how are you showing up in other places of like, how are you partnering with people? How are you sponsoring other things? How are you doing article wise? How is your executive team out there in the market talking about what the platform and company is doing? Where's your thought leadership of all of your other employees? So it becomes a lot more of, it's not just marketing and turning off and on, it's always on, and it's a lot bigger than just marketing as well.
Looking ahead over the next 2 to 3 years, what's one major shift in B2B buyer behavior or growth marketing strategy that you think most marketing departments are underestimating right now?
That's a great question. I would say, I know this is going to sound crazy, but AI. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying from like, go use Claude to like write an article. Like I'm not saying that type of AI, but I'm saying the type of AI where you wake up at 8 a.m. in the morning and you have an updated dashboard from your AI tool that your team didn't need to lift a finger. You start your week and already know exactly what's happening. And if you're not already working towards that, you're already behind, because you're still going to be spending that time and effort and money at the end of the day to report and figure out what to do and figure out where to do it, where now it's, you just have to do it. There's no more figuring it out. You have to do it, and you have to get to market. You got to test and test and test and fail and fail and fail. Right. So I think I say AI, but again, it's not in, oh, AI can do this type of research or AI can, write this content. It is really the automation part of AI that a lot of marketers, I don't think, understand. And it's also hard because a lot of the AI how-tos out there are for enterprises or for people that can afford the $800 a month pro of the pro of the pro of the AI plan, right? So that's the other thing, kind of bringing it back to the startup marketer here, is let us help you understand AI as a startup marketer, where you don't need to sit down and learn all of the buzzwords and all of the details. Like, this is how you just get in it and go. So that's what I would say.
I love it. I love that idea of that, kind of full funnel awareness that you can get now through dashboarding and reporting that maybe just never existed for startups in the past. So it's being able to start every day with confidence and knowing where you are and what do you want to do next versus, pulling all these reports and having to synthesize these things.
You're on it. Nailed it.
Well, Kay, really enjoyed the conversation. Really appreciate you spending some time with us today. If folks want to follow along with your thought leadership or join the community, where do you want to send people to follow up?
Yeah, go to thestartupmarketer.com to join the community for free. You can follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. And then I'm always active on LinkedIn, so just the K Prince, and you'll see me kind of everywhere in the next upcoming months, if I'm going to be honest. So everyone keep your eye out because I'll be everywhere.
Let's go. Well, thanks again for coming on and spending some time with our audience today. And for those of you who are watching, if this is the first time you're seeing the show, don't forget to give us a follow or a subscribe. If you're listening to the show, an honest review on whatever podcast platform you happen to be listening on is how we find a larger audience. So don't forget to do that. And last but not least, if there's a startup marketer out there, maybe a founder who is getting started in the adtech, martech space and needs a community or a little bit of help or encouragement, or maybe somebody who you just think would enjoy the conversation that I had with DK Prince today, don't forget to share the show. And with that, I will wish you all a great week. I'll see you again tomorrow.